Hello and welcome to the Corporate Escapists TV show. I am your host, Christine Innes, and I'm really excited to have this beautiful man, Oscar, joining me today. He is an incredible high-performance confidence coach, and we connected probably a couple of weeks ago, and I just really loved your story, and I really wanted to get you on to sort of share because I think it's so relevant of how you left corporate to, sort of gone on this sort of, personal development journey, but then to start your own business and how that's all evolved. So thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, Christine, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to let everyone know, like you've told me your story of, being in corporate and, going through, do you want to share with everybody that story and how it's led you to be the coach that you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my story of leaving corporate has a tad of drama to it. And so going back 2 years, I used to be one of the senior managers at one of the largest cruise lines in the world. And during my time there, you could say I was a rising star. I had a lot of projects. I was in charge of redeveloping an entire loyalty program. And so I kind of, was elevating quite quickly. And then a new VP came in, and it is my feeling that she got a bit threatened. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever talked about this. I've kind of kept my mouth shut for 2 years because my family's always taught me to take responsibility for everything. But I do feel like it needs to be shared. And so in the span of about 3 weeks, which is quite fast, all of my projects were taken away from me. I had senior executives in the company asking me kind of what was going on. Hey, listen, there's a target on your back. And I was so confused. I had no idea what was going on. Even my own boss was saying, hey, keep your head down. And essentially what was happening was I was being silenced. And leading up to that time, I had always been into the personal development world. I was the guy that during lunch break, I would sit on my computer, listen to Bob Proctor, listen to Ty Lopez, listen to all these influencers, because I had always envisioned a life of being able to help others, travel, and kind of do my own thing, right? And so that was always in the background. And then one day I was told by the new VP to stop dreaming so big and basically know your role. Stay your lane, know your role. All your projects are done. I'm going to tell you exactly what your new role is going to be. So you can imagine after kind of riding this wave for quite some time, it hit me like a bag of rocks, a bag of bricks, if you will. And so I did, and I had just had a son. And it was at that moment where I decided, okay, either I stay silent and I continue in this role, or I take the risk, I take the jump, and I take the leap of going after this dream of being an entrepreneur, being able to travel and doing those types of things.
And I think that can happen, and one of the reasons why I really like that story is that, I know it's crappy of what happened, but it happens so frequently as well. And it could just be somebody coming in, but to be told to stop dreaming, that really is sort of like, there's a concrete wall, I can't go any further. And, when we tell people that, good on you for, not accepting that. But so many people will just be, okay, well, I'll just go back and I'll just sit at my desk and I'll just continue what I'm doing. And that just decreases their productivity. It decreases their value that they can add to the company as well. So, first of all, I want to congratulate you for, taking that step and actually going forward, because, what people don't realize is that, when we make these big, bold decisions, it's like, the nerves, the anxiety, everything starts creeping in, and we're just like, it's sort of like, I'm going to swear, like shit gets real sometimes. It is like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then what about how, from going, obviously from being, in the corporate to starting your business, what did you find is one of the biggest things that you came across with having to transition and, especially in mindset of getting yourself into that frame of mind of starting a business for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first and foremost, I would say that it's not as glamorous as it looks on YouTube, at least initially. And it was tough. It was definitely a transitional period for me to be able to understand a whole new skill set, to be able to now learn how to not just sell, but to run a company, to run a business, to hire employees, to manage employees, to build morale. And I had some of that experience managing a small team in corporate, but this was way different, way different. There were so many things that I didn't have to worry about in corporate that was already taken in, like payroll and whatnot, where it really created an uncomfortable situation for me. Now, in the entrepreneurial world, we always talk about discomfort is kind of our progressive step to being who we want to be. But nevertheless, it was quite difficult. And so to expand on that, Christine, when I first left, I really wanted to be a coach. Really always wanted to be. I knew it was my purpose. I knew I was great at it, but I was scared. You know, I had that imposter syndrome that said, man, who's going to listen to you? You're not good on camera. You don't do this. You don't do this. All that negative narrative that is inevitable sometimes until we work on it. And so rather than going after what I now understand is my purpose, I started a marketing agency. And so I thought that was the way to go. Everybody was doing it. It was, you know, quote unquote easy. And so I did that for the first year and it went really well. However, nothing fails faster than success, right? And I got really big-headed. I started traveling the world with my laptop, with my young family. And like this, everything came crumbling down. And so that was a huge lesson. It was part of my progress, right? Leaving corporate, massive success. I mean, you know, I had hit 50K a month in 6 months. And then in 3 months, I had lost almost 80% of my clients. So it was really humbling. And it really kind of smacked me in the face that said, okay, listen, dude, this is not that easy. And if you really want to do this and you want to do it well, and you want to serve, and you want to make a true difference, well, then it's time to buckle down, stop chasing what you think you should be doing, and actually spend some time to think about what is your purpose here in life. And that's what coaching became for me.
I love that so much because, first of all, I think when somebody has gone through, you know, like, and we become so humble that it switches our own mentality, because we do come from that place of service. Then we're like going, okay, we've hit the rock bottom, stuff's falling apart. And to then get back into that alignment with your purpose and to really come from a place of service. And it takes a lot to be able to do that, because it's easy to get focused on success. It's easy to get focused on the money. But when you go, well, what am I here for? Like your own individual purpose, and then to build a business around that, but then to still come from a place of service. I think that it's not only humbling, you know, for yourself, but it's also the fact that people actually start to see the real you. They start to actually notice that he's very genuine, you know, like, you know, and there's a lot of people out there that are like that. And you can start to see other, I guess, coaches and all of that are just there purely for money, or they're purely there not for their passion. They're just doing it as a step in whatever direction that they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it on the head, and you see it all over Facebook. You know, not to say that there's not entrepreneurs who truly have something to tell, but there's so many posts and do this, do that, do this, do that, and sometimes I wonder, well, how much do you have your stuff together? And so yes, you know, there is a fine line between wanting to show because you want to show, and showing because you truly want to add value. And again, I think there's a fine line. And it is my opinion that at the end of the day, those who are able to maintain success probably learn that lesson via something difficult.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And by the way, your audience, if I'm like glossy, I'm fighting a flu. So if I'm sweating, I'm not nervous. I'm just really like, I was telling Christine, I had a jacket on when we got on the call, and now it's off and might come back on again. So just a heads up. That's why I'm sweating so much.
Yeah, no, I should have actually just put like a big disclaimer, like, you know, it's all good. But like, I totally understand. It's been really weird weather here. Like, we're like, the other day it was really cool, but then now it's like, you know, 30 something degrees and we're like 98% humidity. So it's crazy. But when you were saying, you know, like, obviously, you know, this was your purpose. Was there really like a defining moment that you actually said, okay, well, my purpose is this? You know, was it from once you knew you were going to leave corporate, you know, obviously from the first business? Like, was that just that sort of, I guess, you know, defining moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I always kind of knew. And I say that kind of dodging the question because even was in corporate, even, you know, back in 2014, I went to like a self-confidence camp in Los Angeles. And it was in that moment, and then kind of coming up as I worked on my own, I had terrible social anxiety, really bad, really low confidence. I was terrified to talk to women, all that kind of thing. And it was through those programs that I learned people actually like following me, and that my leadership and my wantingness to help came from a very authentic, natural place. And I think it was because I had always sought help as a child. I was, again, bullied as a kid, really suppressed a lot of my childhood because I didn't like it. I didn't like my body. I didn't like anything really. And so I think it stemmed from that. And you know what my clients say is they love working with me because they know I'm not judging. And again, that stems from I hated being judged, and I knew that I was judged so much as a kid that I would never want to make anyone feel like that, and I almost want to protect people from feeling judged. So to answer your question, was there an exact moment? It's hard to say. Was there an event that showed me that I had the ability to lead? Yes, and that was in 2014 when I went to a camp called the Art of Charm in Los Angeles.
I get super jealous actually, like the camps and all these sort of things that happen over in the States. Like we're starting to get them here, but like I do get super jealous. And I know people go, we shouldn't be jealous, but well, envious maybe is the right word for it.
Sure.
But, you know, I think, you know, what you said, you know, things happen to us, you know, as children, or things happen to us in our adulthood that really makes us sort of see the world differently, because we don't want to be like the other people, you know, that have, you know, either bullied us or made judgment on us. And there's two different ways that we can always go in life. One is that we can be bitter and, you know, really upset with the world, or we can use it, you know, in a more positive light. And that's one of the things that, you know, with your story I really love, is that you choose to do it in more of a positive way, is that you want to treat people the way that, you know, you've always wanted to be treated. And
Sure.
the no judgment part, I mean, that is, when people say you don't judge, like we're all judgmental sort of people, but to be constantly I guess conscious of that, and to make that, you know, decision every single day, it takes a lot for someone to do that.
Yeah, I love how you said that. It does. It's just a level of consciousness, a level of awareness, because you're absolutely right. We're human beings, and no one's perfect. That doesn't exist. But you know, I have the habit of listening to things, reading things over and over again. I learned from one of my mentors, Bob Proctor, that the only way to really change a paradigm or a deeply ingrained habit was to constant repetition. And so one thing that really stuck with me for a very long time, kind of like a brain tattoo, was Neville Goddard. And he talked about the golden rule. And the golden rule is do unto others as you wish they did unto you. And it's such a powerful quote. It speaks volumes. And imagine if we all lived in a world of a little bit of a higher consciousness, where we did treat others the way that we truly wanted to be treated. How much change could we actually make? And so, you know, you with your podcast and your show, and your coaching, me with my coaching and my videos, you know, we do our part. And I think sometimes it's easy to say, oh, I'm just one person, but here we are now, two people, a stronger energy field, that other people are going to be able to see this. And who knows, right? If it can change just one person's life, if it can change one way of thinking, well, then I would say you and I accomplished something beautiful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a big believer in, obviously, like, you know, the energy that you can project out, it creates this beautiful ripple effect. And, you know, one way that I there's a saying, you can teach a man to fish and he can eat for a lifetime. But the thing is that if you can teach a man then how to teach others to fish, imagine that ripple effect that you actually build out into that community. And,
Oh, yeah.
this is what I love doing, is that, I get to bring people like you onto the show, share their stories, so that then that can start creating that beautiful ripple effect around and just spark something in them. It's like planting that sort of acorn seed, so they can, really start to really transform and, make those sort of conscious decisions and changes within their life, because we're so much on autopilot all the time that we just don't stop to think or to listen.
Yes.
And I'm a huge fan of Bob Proctor. Oh my God. Like I binge watch YouTube of him all the time. Love it to death.
Well, just the fact that you talk about autopilot shows me that you know some of that.
Yeah. No, absolutely love it. When you are teaching people about, growing their confidence, do you find that there's something that sort of constantly that comes up, that's sort of like trending, that people, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that what we see within ourselves is not necessarily what other people see as well. And it's sort of like bringing the best out of it. Is that something that you see a lot in people that you coach?
Oh yeah, I would say in everyone, right? The first thing that comes to my mind is, do you know the picture of the old woman, young woman?
Yes.
And it is, who do you see first? Do you see the older woman? Do you see them? I don't know the exact name of it, but you know what I'm talking about. All it is perception. And so what happens is, I think, we are so programmed from 0 to 7 years old by our environment, by our parents, by what people say to us, that programming gets locked in, which is about 95 to 97% of our brain power. And then you've only got about that 5 to 3% that's your conscious mind. And so what I find with so many of my clients is that they've kind of got like this, they've got all this trash covering their beautiful selves. I call it uncovering your David, like Michelangelo's David, where the story of Michelangelo's David was that it was just a discarded piece of marble. Michelangelo saw something beautiful, and so he just chipped away at it. And so the analogy here is that all of that chipping away, that's just the garbage that life and environment and everything else is just fed on you, and you've allowed that to create a perception of yourself that isn't real. And so what I try to help my clients do is, and this is part of the program, is we start to chip away. We start to chip away at the negative thoughts, the negative feelings, the negative words that we use, right? Words frame language, frame meaning. And so we start to chip away at those things, and then we start to shift our perception of who we are. And the breakthroughs that people see and how quickly they see them when they allow them. I always give Two-Face from Batman. You might see something beautiful here, but I might see something really ugly, or vice versa. All we have to do is begin to shift our perception, chip away at all the garbage that life has fed us. And like this, someone's perception of themselves, their self-identity can take a quantum leap, and everything changes. And it's one of the most, I get chills talking about it. It's one of the most beautiful things that we do in the program, and what I do with people in general, because I've done it to myself. And that's not to say that I don't have moments of doubt. I do. I have fears. I get anxiety. I worry sometimes, but that's natural. And so if we chip away, if we change our perception, and we just love ourselves a little bit more, you'd be amazed at the transformation that people can make.
I love that so much. And I think you made such a really valid point at the end of that, is that, we're both coaches, but we are still human beings. And, we still have these old stories. We still have these things that we have to work towards. And I always say, to my clients, is that I'm perfectly imperfect, because nobody out there is ever going to be perfect. I actually remove the word perfection out of my vocabulary because it is unattainable. It does not exist. But if you can slowly rebuild that and, change those stories and, like you said, chip away at things, that is when the magic really does happen. So I absolutely love what you do, because I think that it's so needed out there, because like you said, we've got all these stories, we've got all these things attached to us as we've been, brought up as children. And it's not saying that our parents have done anything bad. It's that they just sometimes weren't to know, or we've held on to something that, when I was listening to today, was, we can tell the same story, but that story is going to change multiple times to what it originally actually was. So yeah, it's such important work that you're doing. As we sort of, you know, wrap up, is there something that you think that, you know, as we, you know, we talked about, you know, putting the energy out there, you know, and just could change one person's life? What piece of advice would you give to somebody who is watching this and thinking that I want to leave, but just don't have that confidence or belief within myself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say find what you love and take a chance, which some people would probably say that's the worst advice, but I would just tell you, don't leave until you find something that you love.
Yeah. Because that love turns into passion, and that's when you get highly motivated to do it. So absolutely love all of that. So if you're sitting out there watching this and you're thinking that you're lacking in the confidence, make sure, I'm going to put all of Oscar's details below, that you'll be able to get in contact with him, because honestly, I feel that, you know, sometimes it is just it's our perception of ourselves, and we just need to change that, because what other people see in us, we can actually bring that out in ourselves as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. I think I'll have to get you back on the show, because I think there's so much that we can really uncover and dive a lot deeper into people and give them some really extra added value as well. So I'd love to invite you to come back on the show as well.
It would be my pleasure.
So thank you so much to everyone who is watching this episode of the Corporate Escapist TV show. I'm your host, Christine Innes, and make sure that you live every day with passion and purpose. So love and light to you all.